I have a memory from when I was 5 years old. I am sitting in a kindergarten classroom in Phoenix, Arizona. The teacher is reading us a book about America, about the flag, about what the colors mean. Red for courage, white for purity, blue for justice. And I remember thinking, this is my flag, this is my country, this is home. I was 5 years old. I had been in America for 2 years. I did not know I was undocumented. I did not know what undocumented meant. I did not know that the country I had just decided to love had not yet decided to love me back. My name is Sofia. I am 24 years old. I came to America from Mexico when I was 3, brought by my parents who were fleeing poverty and looking for the thing America promises everyone who stands at its door, a chance. I grew up here. I went to school here. I learned to read here, learned to dream here, fell in love for the first time here, buried my grandmother here. America is not where I live. America is who I am. And this morning, I received a letter telling me I have 30 days to leave. Let me tell you who I am, because the conversation about immigration in this country almost never includes that part, who the people actually are. I grew up in Phoenix. My parents worked, my father in construction, my mother cleaning hotel rooms, and they worked the way immigrants work, which is to say completely without complaint, at jobs that built and maintained a city that did not always acknowledge they existed. I was a good student, not because I was trying to prove something, though I was always trying to prove something, but because school was the place where nobody could touch me. In school, I was just Sofia. I got a B+ in algebra and an A in English, and I played clarinet badly in the school band. And I had a best friend named Rachel, who is still my best friend today, and who is, for the record, furious about what is happening to me. I found out I was undocumented when I was 16. My mother sat me down at the kitchen table and explained it. She explained the crossing, the desert, the coyote, the 3-year-old me asleep on her shoulder through the night. She cried while she told me. I didn't cry. I went to my room and sat on my bed for an hour, and then I came back out and said, okay, what do we do? Because that is what you do when you are the daughter of people who crossed a desert for you. You do not fall apart. You figure out what comes next. In 2012, President Obama created Daca, Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. It was not a path to citizenship. It was not a permanent solution. It was a temporary protection, renewable every 2 years, that said, we see you. You grew up here. We will not deport you while we figure this out. I applied immediately. I was approved. I got a work permit. I got a social security number. I got to say for the first time in my life that I was allowed to be here. It was the best day of my life up to that point, which tells you something about what the years before it felt like. I went to college. I studied nursing. I graduated. I got a job at a hospital in Phoenix where I work in the pediatric ward, sick children, some of them very sick. And I am good at my job, and I love my job, and the children do not know or care about my immigration status, and neither do their parents. Because when your child is sick, the only thing that matters is who is taking care of them. That is who I am. That is who they are deporting. The letter came on a Tuesday. Tuesdays are my days off. I was drinking coffee and watching the news, which I have started doing differently, watching it like it is about me, because increasingly it is. When I heard the mail slot, I knew before I opened it. I don't know how. I just knew. The language in these letters is very clean, very bureaucratic. It does not say, we are ending your life as you know it. It says your deferred action status has been terminated. It says you are required to depart the United States within 30 days. It says failure to comply may result in removal proceedings. Removal. That is the word they use. As if I am a stain. As if I am something that got somewhere it shouldn't be and needs to be cleaned up. I sat on the floor. I don't remember deciding to sit on the floor. I was just suddenly on the floor, with the letter in my hand, and the coffee getting cold on the counter, and the news still playing on the television, and outside my window, Phoenix going about its Tuesday morning completely unaware that my world had just ended. I called Rachel first. She answered on the second ring, and I said, it happened. And she said, I'm coming over. And she came over and she sat on the floor with me, and we didn't say anything for a long time. Then I called my mother. My mother has been undocumented her entire time in America, 24 years. She has lived with this fear longer than I have been alive, as someone who knew what fear was. And when I told her, she was quiet for a moment, and then she said in Spanish, which is the language she uses when she means something completely, "You are not going anywhere. We will fight this." I want to believe her. I'm trying to believe her. But I have read the statistics. I know how many appeals succeed. I know how many lawyers cost more than I make in a year. I know how many dreamers have already been removed, sent to countries they don't remember, countries where they don't know anyone, countries whose language some of them barely speak. I am trying to believe her. But the floor is very cold, and the letter is very real. 3 days after the letter, I go to work. Because what else do? You go to work. I drive the same route I always drive. Past the same Starbucks, the same elementary school, the same billboard I have always found ugly, and have somehow come to find comforting purely through repetition. I park in the same spot in the hospital parking garage. I put on my scrubs. I put on my badge, the badge with my photograph and my name and my job title that says I belong here, that says I have a function in this place, that says I matter to this institution, even if the government disagrees. I walk into the pediatric ward. There is a boy named Marcus, 7 years old, here for his 3rd round of chemotherapy. He has learned all my favorite songs from my playlist because I play music quietly during his treatment, and he asks me every week to add new ones. Today, when I walk in, he says, "Sofia, I learned a new one." And he sings, badly, beautifully, the first verse of a song I showed him last week. I stand in the doorway of his room, and I smile, and I tell him it's perfect. And I think, I might not be here for his next round. I might not be here for the round after that. I might be in a country I don't know, trying to figure out how to be a nurse without an American license, trying to figure out how to be Sofia without America. I do his treatment. I hold his hand when it hurts. I tell him he is the bravest person I know. I mean it completely. On my lunch break, I sit in my car in the parking garage and I look at my phone. There is a group chat. Other Daca recipients. A network we built because nobody builds these networks for you. You build them yourself. And it is full of messages. People sharing information about lawyers, about appeals, about which congressional offices are taking calls, about a rally on Saturday in downtown Phoenix. Someone in the group, a young man named David, a teacher in Chicago, Daca since he was 8, writes, "Remember, they can challenge our status. They cannot take our story. Keep telling it." I screenshot it. I look at it for a while. Then I go back inside to finish my shift. People ask, people who do not understand, they ask, "But don't you have a home to go back to?" I want to answer this question carefully because it deserves a careful answer. I was 3 years old when I left Mexico. I have no memory of it. I have no family there. My parents are here. My only aunt is here. My grandmother is buried here. I do not know the city my birth certificate says I was born in. I have never walked its streets. I have never been to school there. I do not know its rhythms or its shortcuts or its particular quality of morning light. I speak Spanish. My parents made sure of that, and I am grateful. But my Spanish is the Spanish of someone who learned it at home, from family, not the Spanish of someone who grew up immersed in a culture. It is accented in ways that would immediately mark me as foreign. If I am deported to Mexico, I will be, in every meaningful sense of the word, an immigrant, an American immigrant in Mexico. I will be starting over in a country I have never known, at 24, without a support system, without a career that transfers, without the life I spent 2 decades building. So no, I do not have a home to go back to. This is my home, this hospital, this parking garage, this ugly billboard, Marcus and his songs, Rachel, who sits on floors with me, my mother's voice in Spanish when she means something completely. There are 580,000 active Daca recipients in the United States right now. The average dreamer has been in America for over 20 years. They are teachers and nurses and engineers and small business owners and soldiers. Yes, some Daca recipients have served in the U.S. military, and students and parents and neighbors and friends. They did not choose to come here. They were children. They were brought here by parents who were desperate and hopeful and human, and they grew up American because America was all they knew. And now they are being asked to leave the only home they have ever had. I do not know how to explain what that feels like. I am trying. I am trying with every word of this. Saturday, the rally in downtown Phoenix. I almost don't go. I am tired in a way that has settled into my bones. I am tired of being a political issue. I am tired of my life being a debate. I am tired of turning on the news and hearing people argue about whether I deserve to be here. People who have never met me, who do not know my name, who would not recognize me if I treated their child in the hospital tomorrow. But I go. Because David was right. They can challenge our status. They cannot take our story. And if I stop telling it, I become exactly what they want me to be. Invisible, silent, already gone. There are hundreds of people there. Daca recipients and their families and their friends and their colleagues and strangers who came because they believe that what is happening is wrong. There are signs. There are speeches. There is a woman, maybe 70 years old, white hair, American flag pin on her lapel, holding a sign that says, "My neighbor is a dreamer. Hands off." I stand next to her for a while. She does not know me. I do not know her. But she is here. She came on a Saturday morning because she decided that this mattered, that I mattered, that the abstract political argument had a face, and the face was her neighbor, and her neighbor deserved to stay. I think about something my civics teacher told us in ninth grade. He said, "Democracy is not something that happens to you. It is something you do. Every day. In small ways and large ones. It is showing up." She showed up. She is doing democracy. I hold my sign. I say my name into a microphone when they ask people to share their stories. My voice shakes and I let it shake because shaking is honest, and I am done performing strength I do not always feel. I say my name is Sofia. I am 24 years old. I have lived in America for 21 years. I am a pediatric nurse. I pay taxes. I vote. I became eligible last year through a separate legal process, and I voted in my first election for a city councilor and a school board member and a ballot measure about public transit funding, because that is what you do when you participate in its future. I say, I am not a criminal. I am not a threat. I am a person, and I am asking you to see me. 20 days left. I have started and stopped packing 3 times. There is a suitcase open on my floor. I keep putting things into it and then taking them out again. Because packing feels like giving up, and I am not ready to give up. But I am also a practical person, and practical people make contingency plans even when they hate them. I sit on my bed. I look around my room. The Taylor Swift poster I have had since I was 17. The photograph from my nursing graduation, me and my mother and my father, all 3 of us crying, my father who never cries crying because we all knew what it meant, what I had built in spite of everything. The small succulent on my windowsill that Rachel gave me and that I have somehow kept alive for 3 years, which feels like a miracle every day. I think about the country they want to send me to. I have tried to learn it. I have read about it. I have watched videos, listened to music, tried to imagine myself in its streets. It is a beautiful country. I know that. It is a country full of people who are not responsible for what is happening to me and who deserve none of the complicated feelings I have about the place that made me without making me. But it is not home. It will not be home. It will be a place I live because I was sent there. And there is all the difference in the world between those 2 things. I pick up my phone. I open the group chat. David has posted an update. A court has issued a temporary stay in another state, buying time for some recipients. It may or may not apply to my case. My lawyer is looking into it. I put the phone down. I look at the suitcase. I close it. Not because I have given up on packing, because tonight I am not packing. Tonight I am sitting in my room, in my home, in my country, and I am refusing for one more night to accept that this is over. Tomorrow I will fight again. Tonight I will just be here. I don't know how my story ends. I don't know if the court will rule in my favor. I don't know if Congress will act. I don't know if I will be in this bedroom in 30 days or in a country I have never known. What I know is this. I am not an issue. I am not a statistic. I am not a political football or a talking point or a symbol of anything except a person who grew up in this country and loves it the way you love the place that made you, imperfectly, completely, without being able to imagine being anywhere else. There are 580,000 people like me in America right now. Each one of them has a bedroom and a story and a name, and a Marcus singing badly in a hospital room, and a Rachel who sits on floors, and a mother whose voice changes when she means something completely. Each one of them is waiting, fighting, refusing for one more night to accept that this is over. I want to say something to anyone watching this who has the power to do something, and that is everyone. Every person who votes, every person who calls their representative, every person who shows up on a Saturday morning with a sign, every person who looks at their neighbor, really looks, and decides that their neighbor's right to exist in this country matters. You have power. You may not feel it, but you do. Use it. And to anyone watching this who is a dreamer, who is Sofia in some version of this story, I want you to hear this. You are not illegal. You are not removable. You are not a problem to be solved. You are a person. You are home. And you deserve to stay. Sofia's story is fictional, but it is built from the real, documented experiences of hundreds of thousands of Daca recipients across America. If you want to support dreamers, the links to Daca advocacy organizations are in the description below. If this moved you, share it, because Sofia cannot share her own story to everyone who needs to hear it. But you can. Subscribe to Borrowed Lives, because every week we borrow a life, and every life we borrow makes us a little more human. See you in the next Borrowed Life.